let's talk about your blood type. And I mean, really talk about it. Forget thinking it's just a letter on your driver's license for emergencies. That single letter, O, A, B, or AB, is actually a biological code that's quietly influencing your health every single day, in ways you've probably never even thought about. And let's get one thing straight right from the jump. This is not about personality traits or some fad diet. We're not doing horoscopes here. We are talking about hard science, backed by major studies from places like the American Heart Association and published in serious journals like Neurology. This is biology. You know, if you're a type A, your blood is naturally, well, stickier, which quietly increases your risk of clots and stroke. And if you're type O, you might feel like you've got it made, but certain deadly bacteria have a special key that fits the lock on your gut lining. So really, the question isn't if your blood type affects you, it's how. So here's how we're going to break all this down. First, we're going to get into the hidden code, the core science behind it all, what I call stickiness. Then we'll dive into each of the major blood types, O, A, B, and AB. We'll even tackle the special case of being Rh negative. And most importantly, for every single one, we're going to build a personal safety loop, actionable steps you can take to manage these built-in risks. Okay, let's dive right into the core idea that makes all of this work. It honestly boils down to one surprisingly simple concept: stickiness. So, on the surface of all your red blood cells, you have these tiny little markers called antigens. Now, the absolute best way to think about these is like biological Velcro. If you're type A, you've got A-style Velcro. If you're type B, you've got B-style Velcro. And this Velcro, it doesn't just identify your blood, it literally dictates how it behaves in your body. And here's where it all clicks. Type O blood is essentially, well, it's smooth. It has no A or B antigens, no Velcro. And that makes it slippery, flowing almost like water. On the flip side, types A and B, they have that Velcro. That makes their blood thicker, kind of like maple syrup. This one single difference is the root cause of so many of the health risks we're about to get into. So let's start with the two heavy hitters, O and A. I mean, together, these two account for the vast majority of people on the entire planet. First up, we've got type O. This is the ancestral blood type carried by about 40% of us. And you might think, hey, being the original, that must give me an edge. But really, it's more of a dangerous double-edged sword. Here's the deal with type O. Your Superflow blood is a trade-off. Yeah, it protects you from clots, which is great, but it's really dangerous in a major injury because you can bleed out faster. Trauma surgeons actually talk about this. They say they can sometimes spot a type O on the table because the bleeding is just so hard to control. But an even more common threat is hiding in your gut. Your cells have a specific marker that acts like a perfect landing strip for nasty bacteria, especially H. pylori, which causes ulcers. So what's your safety loop? It's twofold. First, you have to guard your gut. Your stomach acid is your best friend, so avoid overusing antacids that weaken it. And if you have chronic stomach issues, seriously, get tested for H. pylori. Second, and this is a big one, always tell your surgeon and even your dentist that you are type O before any procedure. Just saying, I'm type O and I bleed easily, prepares them to handle it. All right, now let's talk about type A. If type O is water, you guys have got syrup. Your blood is naturally sticky and it just loves to clot. Now, this was probably a great survival advantage when you were trying not to bleed to death from a predator attack. But today, when we sit in a chair for 8 hours a day, it's a huge liability. This syrup blood seriously increases your risk for things like deep vein thrombosis and strokes. And to top it off, type A is also linked to higher levels of the stress hormone cortisol and a greater risk for certain cancers. For you, type A, the solution is simple, but it is absolutely non-negotiable. First, you have got to move that syrup. Make it a rule. Never sit for more than 45 minutes at a time. Getting up and walking around for a few minutes isn't just a wellness tip for you, it is literally stroke prevention. Second, you've got to cool that inflammatory fire. Think stress reduction techniques and load up your diet with anti-inflammatory foods like ginger, garlic, and turmeric. Okay, let's shift gears now and talk about the less common but just as fascinating profiles of type B and the super rare type AB. Their risks are completely different. So type B. You'll find this in about 10% of the population. It's thought to have originated way up in the Himalayan highlands, and it's known for having a really robust immune system. But that strength comes with a very peculiar weakness. The main danger for type B is actually internal inflammation. It can make the inside of your arteries rough and inflamed, almost like the inside of an old, crusty garden hose. This leads to poor circulation. If your hands and feet are always cold, this might be why. And just like type O is a target for some things, your B antigen is like a five-star meal for bacteria like Salmonella and E. coli, making you way more likely to get severe food poisoning. So to stay safe, your focus is twofold. One, boost your circulation. Eat foods rich in nitric oxide, like beets and leafy greens, because they help open up your blood vessels. And two, you have to be absolutely hypervigilant about food safety. I'm talking especially with things like poultry and eggs to avoid those nasty bacterial infections that your body unfortunately welcomes with open arms. And now, for the rarest of the main groups, type AB. Less than 4% of people have this type. You've got both A and B antigens, which is cool because it makes you a universal recipient for blood transfusions. But internally, that combination creates a really shocking risk. Okay, you need to listen to this. Research published in the journal Neurology found that people with type AB blood are 82% more likely to develop cognitive issues and memory loss later in life. Let that sink in. That's not a small number. That is a massive, massive statistical link. The theory is that it has to do with poor circulation in the tiniest blood vessels of the brain. So for you, type AB, the crucial thing is you must actively, aggressively protect your brain. Cardiovascular exercise to force blood into those tiny capillaries is non-negotiable. Brain games are not just for fun. And keeping your blood pressure under control is paramount, because high blood pressure is like gasoline on a fire for cognitive decline in your specific biology. So far, we've only been talking about the letter A, B, O. But what about that little plus or minus sign next to it? If you've got a minus sign, you're part of a unique club, about 15% of the population. And you face a completely different set of potentially life-altering risks. The most critical risk for Rh-negative people, especially women, comes up during pregnancy. If an Rh-negative mom carries an Rh-positive baby, her immune system can actually mistake the baby for a foreign invader and attack its red blood cells. Now, that sounds absolutely terrifying, but modern medicine has a simple and incredibly effective solution, a shot called Rogam. It completely prevents this from happening. This makes it an absolutely critical conversation to have with your doctor the moment you know you're pregnant. And this right here illustrates the huge problem for O-negative blood. You are the universal donor, the hero of every emergency room. Your blood can save anyone. But here's the trap. While you can save everyone, almost no one can save you. Demand is always through the roof, but the supply, from less than 7% of the population, is dangerously low. If you're in a major accident, a hospital finding enough of your specific blood type is a real and, frankly, terrifying challenge. So your safety loop is all about one thing: preparedness. If you're O-negative, wear a medical ID bracelet and know where the major trauma centers with big blood banks are in your area. If you're A or B negative and you have a surgery scheduled, you can donate your own blood beforehand. And if you're the super rare AB negative, know your family's blood types. A sibling or a parent could literally be your biological insurance policy. So let's bring this all home. If you're going to remember one thing from all of this, let this be it. This is your ultimate guide. For type O, your number one job is to guard your gut. For type A, it's all about moving your body. For type B, eating clean to fight that inflammation is key. For type AB, you have to actively protect your brain. And for every single person with a negative blood type, your mantra is simple: be prepared. Look, the medical system might treat you like a statistic, but you're not. You are a specific biological machine with unique needs. You now have key pages from the owner's manual for your body that you probably never even knew existed. And knowledge isn't just power. In this case, it is protection. So the only question left is, how are you going to use it?